And over the three sessions, we're going to talk about pricing your work and promoting your Art Weeks event, all of which are tied into what you're hoping to achieve with your Art Weeks participation. So there are lots of reasons for hosting or for being part of an exhibition. So some people or community groups are just simply keen to share their art and their practice and talk to other artists and see the response. And then there'll be others amongst you who are eager to make as much money as possible and pay off the mortgage. So that's both are cool. Um, and there'll be others who are hoping for new contacts to start to create or to bolster a mailing list, or to have visitors who might sign up for a workshop or commission a piece. And then some people, and this is honestly true, some people just sign up because if they know they've signed up, they know they're going to have to do an annual spring clean. So, so lots of different reasons and lots of different, as many reasons as there are people. But either way, if you haven't exhibited before, deciding how to price your pieces can be a real worry. And that's why we do this session, is because it was one of the questions we got asked the most is how much should I be charging? Which is it's an almost impossible question, but we thought we would have a bash at it. So the good news is that in the first session, I'm going to talk about pricing your art. The bad news is that you can't just hold something up in your little Zoom box and expect definitive answers. So what we're going to try and do is give you food for thought so that you can approach pricing with a bit more confidence, or at least an understanding of how other people do it. So a good place to start is the rough cost of the raw materials for a finished piece. And if that art is 2D and it's going to need framing, that will be a big part of it. If you're going to have your pieces professionally framed, remember to organise it with plenty of time because, funnily enough, the Oxfordshire framers are notoriously busy in April. Wonder why? So, framing is expensive, and it could be by far the most expensive part of hosting an exhibition. So, if you already haven't, plan how to do it economically. It's actually much cheaper to buy ready-made frames and mounts for standard sized paper. You might go to a big furniture and homeware store, for example, and buy lots of the same type of frame. You might even get them in the same frame in oak, black, and white and be able to give people a choice, or say to people, if you come back at the end of the week, you can have it in whichever of these frames you like, for example. Alternatively, you could go to charity shops and car boot sales and upcycle frames, and that will give your show a more kind of shabby chic look than that very clinical, perfect branding. So you need to think about what's appropriate if you're building a brand image for yourself. What do you think is appropriate for your art and for who you are and who you want to be seen as? Now, there's no need to frame everything or even anything at all. You can sell just canvases, you can sell paint on board, you can sell mounted paper, but it is very neat for a visitor to walk away with a finished picture under their arm. All they need to do is hammer in a nail and it appears much better value to carry away a framed picture at say £250 than it would be to carry away the piece of paper with the art on it inside that frame for £150 or £200. So you need to weigh up these things. That extra investment up front can make your art seem much better quality, much better value, but it could leave you out of pocket if you don't sell enough pieces to cover your costs, and you'll need to sell more items at that higher price to make the same profit. So there's just a little bit of sort of framing thinking there. Um, but so that's on framing. Any questions on framing from anybody? No?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to get some off the shelf from a furniture place or something, is there a minimum sort of quality you'd recommend? Because some of them are really very plasticky.
I
Um,
think if you were to go to the popular blue and yellow furniture place, the quality's quite good. Obviously, if you're paying £2 in home bargains, sorry, home bargains, if you're paying £2 in a different store, then it's probably going to be quite cheap.
Okay. I was
But
looking
that,
for recommendations. So the blue and
yeah.
yellow place you would recommend, would
I
you?
think they're pretty good
Okay.
generally. I mean, also though, you could just think, well, they look much better, even in a cheap plasticky frame. They look more finished than just
Yeah.
paper on their own, because people can always reframe them. And if you're only adding a few pounds to the price of your picture, so again, it comes back to that. What are you trying to present? So it's
Mm.
just worth thinking about that. So
Um,
that's on framing. Oh, sorry.
well, I was just going to say Dunelm are very cheap and cheerful, but exactly what you were saying. I mean, they're not the greatest frames, but they're an A3 frame is something like £7.
Yeah.
Um,
And it probably does make the image look just tidier and neater than something that
yeah, exactly.
that you've picked up
I
in a
mean,
charity shop or something. So
I'm not really expecting to sell vast quantities of them, so I framed my photographs sort of basically as cheaply as I could without sort of, as you say, making them look too plasticky.
yeah,
Sorry, I
excellent.
keep saying Imogen Davis. I can't seem to change that.
Well, if we're calling it Imogen in years to come, we'll all know
Well,
why.
yeah,
Fine.
you know why.
So that's the framing, but framed or otherwise, the cost of production is the first thing to consider. So if you're just trying to recoup the cost of materials to buy more, so that you can continue to clear the spare bedroom so you can finally have guests again, or so that you can get your husband or wife off your back, then the cost of production might be that's great, you're happy with that. But if you're trying to make a living or a side hustle, a decent side hustle from your art, then you'll need to think about the associated costs. So that might be the electricity for the kiln, the leftover of wastage materials, possibly a contribution to studio rent or website running costs. So those kinds of overheads you probably need to work out over a month or a year and then split them down between the pieces that you make or sell in that time. I mean, it's all approximate, it's all rough, it's just things to think about. And then there's your time. I mean, should you be adding an hourly minimum wage? I mean, in principle, yes, of course. But it's quite hard to know where that would stop as well. Would you be charging for the time just creating the piece? Or would you include the time for popping to the shop for new brushes or taking that ta-da photo afterwards and posting it on social media? And then there's admin and accounts and coming to a session like this. So all of those things, just remember that they're worth time, that time is worth money. So consider those things. So now I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a visitor and look at pricing from the other end of the equation. So you might have for sale a painting, a giant painting the size of a garden shed, but it actually took less time for you to make that than a 3-inch square embroidery. But if you charged £100 for both of them, the abstract, the garden shed abstract might seem a bargain, whereas the embroidery might seem a bit pricey because it's really tiny. So think about the perception of the visitor. Or you might have two ceramic works, the same size, one of which you whipped up at the kitchen table while you're watching Traitors, and the other was a whole fortnight of dedication and tears and multiple firings and broken bits of pot. Um, so the time taken and the effort and energy to complete each was vastly different. But to the visitor, that difference might be really not very obvious because they'll fill the same space on the shelf. So I think size is the second thing to consider in your pricing strategy. Pricing by size makes things easier for you, for an invigilator, and for any visitors, whether it's sort of jewellery or furniture. If you can just say, oh, the small ones are around £50, the big ones are 300, and the medium ones are 300, and the big ones are between 700 and 1,000, or whatever it is for your media, your kind of art. Um, that that kind of rule of thumb makes it easier for everybody. And size is also the normal way to charge if you're hoping to work to commission. Sorry, was that a hand up, Pippa? No. Um, so If you're working to commission, if you don't know how easy a piece will be to do until you get down to it, but you have to quote for a portrait, for example, beforehand, and you might not know at that point whether the subject has this kind of perfect porcelain skin that just absorbs light so there's no reflections, or they have, I don't, fancy illustrative tattoos head to toe in a Technicolor rainbow. So, for your exhibition work and for potential commissions, think about having a consistent approach based on the average cost and time to create a certain piece. So, those are your kind of considerations of raw materials and overheads and time and size. But then we're coming back to the question, well, it always comes back to the question of what do you want to get out of this exhibition or this showcase? Are you testing the water as an emerging artist and trying to clear that garage? Or are you trying to maximize sales? Or are you trying to maximize profits? Because it's not the same thing. If you price low, you're likely to sell more, but at a reduced margin. You might also undermine your value if you sell too low and that of other artists. So if you're selling these amazing oils for £20 and everybody else's are 10 times that, they're going to wonder whether your work, what's wrong with your work, was it mass produced somehow in I don't know, somehow, and they're going to judge other people's too. But at the same time, sorry, somebody asking a question? It might be that there's background noise. Perhaps people can put their things on mute unless they're asking a question. But you do also want to price low enough that you are going to sell, because if you overprice, then you might sell very little. If you just charge 10% less, you might have sold a lot more. So it's trying to find that kind of sweet spot. So everything I've said so far is about being rational, thinking things through, calculations, maybe spreadsheets with lovely multicolored columns. I do love a multicolored column spreadsheet. But actually, we are emotional, intuitive beings. And I always think the art of pricing art is a bit like selling a house. You kind of have to have a good old browse on Rightmove to see the prices of the other houses in your patch. And then you'll have a gut feeling about where you fall. You might all be on the same road and the houses might have all started the same, but you've got a conservatory and they've got a scruffy front lawn. So you hopefully will then just be able to kind of feel in your guts where you fall in that spectrum. So I would recommend ahead of your show, you have a look at other people's work that's a bit similar to yours, both in real life and online, and just where do you feel it fits?
So much, and today too often only accounting the fail.
Is there anybody here that could maybe mute their Zoom? So now we're going to think about the visitor again, but in a different way. The amount of spare cash that people have had over the last few years has been really quite squeezed. So now imagine you have these lovely, enthusiastic visitors. They think what you make is great, but their pension doesn't stretch, or their mortgage is crippling, or they've just had a new baby, and they just can't stretch to something that's £250, but they might stretch to 100. So think about different price points. Might you want to do small pots or pieces? Or if you're a photographer, do some that are big, some that are small, or offer to do other sizes as well, even if you don't have them on show? Might you do some mini pictures or print postcards or prints of your work? What can work really well is a sort of reduced or seconds box, last season's work, studio sale. So alongside your new work, you have things that maybe haven't sold and you're trying to get rid of them, or didn't turn out quite as well as you liked, and have those available too. Now, sometimes people worry that by offering lower price things, their visitors won't take the plunge and take home a big original. And that could be true, but you don't know whether they would have done anyway. And it might be that they're thrilled to buy something, and if they buy something small and they take it home and they love it, then it's a continual reminder for them on their walls, a keepsake or a memory of you and your work. So they may well come back next year, or they get a big promotion, or they're putting together a wedding list, or they've got a big birthday. So getting things out there that people remember who you were and they've got that continual reminder is a really good thing to do. So having cards and prints can be really useful if you're trying to appeal to all sectors of the market. And you can actually make quite a lot of money with cards as people buy them as a thank you for you having invited them in and letting them visit. Or sometimes it's a guilt purchase because they haven't bought something bigger, they'll buy a few cards. So and also, if people buy cards and then send them on, they're then sending pictures of your work to other people, and they could be on other mantelpieces and stuck on fridges all around the country. So it's a good thing to think about. The good news is with cards, there is a rule of thumb for pricing. Pretty much whatever you paid for them, double it. Now, better quality printing, so the G-clay prints, for example, will cost you more. And you can charge more for those. People generally know that a G-clay print is a better quality. And as long as you know what one is, if somebody says, oh, what's a G-clay print? And you can tell them, they'll understand why that costs more. The catch for printed material like this is that there's a real outlay in producing them. And you'll also find there's often a minimum number that you have to print. So that initial cost could eat up any profits that you're left with, if you're left with stock at the end of Art Weeks. And the chances of you judging it perfectly, so you've sold every last card, is probably slim. So again, what are you hoping to get out of Art Weeks? Is this your one-off exhibition of the year? Or do you have a plan for summer art markets and Etsy sales throughout the year? Because it could be that you're using Art Weeks to kind of pay for the stock, and then after that, everything is just pure profit through the summer and Etsy and whatever. So, that's great, but what's not good if you're stepping over them on your landing for another year until Art Weeks 2027. Either way, it's definitely good for people to have something to carry away with them, but it doesn't have to be cards and postcards. It could equally be a business card or a flyer printed just on your home printer. So we've been talking up till this point as if you're going to get the whole amount of the price you charge. But that might not be the case if you're exhibiting in a group or in a gallery. Now, I know that a few of you who are going to be here, I don't know whether I've got my list of people and where they were exhibiting, but not everybody's here. Some of you are probably exhibiting in galleries like Westocks Arts. Any Westocks Arts in here? Or Cornerstone? Definitely got Cornerstone. If you're exhibiting in a gallery or in a part of a group where you pay a commission, then remember to bear that in mind. The commission will come off the price on the tag, so you need to add that commission on to whatever it is you'd actually like in your pocket, or at least see what it looks like when you're doing your head scratching around the price. Occasionally, galleries have to charge VAT if the sales are going for the whole thing is going through their tills, and so make sure you know whether you'll be paying that, a proportion of that VAT too, or occasionally galleries only charge VAT on the commission. So just check, what the sums are really, because a painting you can sell on a stall in a church hall for maybe £100 might be as much as 240 on a gallery wall. And it is a big difference, and I know people sometimes suck between their teeth at the idea of that. But the reason is that galleries, they're businesses or cooperatives anyway, and they're working all year round to promote their artists. So it's bad form to undercut them, and it will damage your relationship with them. So if you are exhibiting in galleries or hoping to shortly, then probably you need to be charging the gallery price in your own studio or only a small amount less. Because that if you're in a gallery, your relationship with them is likely to be important. But the good thing is that if you are then charging that in your studio and you sell a couple of pictures, you're making twice as much money per piece as you would if you were selling it via the gallery. And if you're looking to exhibit in a gallery in 2, 3, 4 years' time, then you might want to just gently push your prices up over those years. So all of that, again, is about what do you want to get out of your gallery. So I think the strategies on pricing really, people have very different ones, ranging from really complicated to just holding up your finger and licking it and licking your finger and putting it in the wind to see what you feel is right. And all of those things are fine. It's just a case of working out what works for you. So any questions about pricing? Nobody? Nothing at all? Oh, you're a very quiet group. Kim, is that a question? You're on mute.
Does anyone ever say to people, like, what do you think it's worth? Or talk about offers?
I'm sure that happens. I'm absolutely certain that people drop their prices to make a sale, or that I don't know whether anybody's ever had that kind of pay what you Actually, no, I think somebody did have that sort of pay what you decide approach one year. Not last year, must have been the year before. I don't know how it went. Um,
Okay.
I mean, that's something that organizations sometimes do for events and things, and there's no reason not to. The thing is, Art Weeks, we don't really have any rules.
Mm,
We like to offer guidelines, but we like to give everybody the chance to make it work for them because you're all different, your art's different, your venues are different, your expectations and hopes are different. So, so you were thinking of just of asking people to make offers then?
yes, and I would do it for a charity, I think. Um, the things I make, I haven't seen anything else like it, so I can't compare. Um,
So what do you create?
I make 3D scenes out of paper and cardboard. So apart from using a bit of acrylic paste and glue, it's all recycled stuff. So there's no real outlay in materials. It's very intricate. It takes me ages, but then again, I like doing it. So part of the reason for me doing this, it's the first time I've done it, is to find out what people think of it, really.
And where are you exhibiting?
I'm part of the old school collective in North Hinksey Lane.
Hmm. Interesting. I suppose I would suggest you just ask sort of friends and family where they think you should roughly put your price point, because I think you do need to put something, otherwise people won't know whether they should be offering £200 and you don't want people insulting you offering a fiver. So
Yeah,
I think you'd need to have some kind of guidelines for
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Pe People do like to know how much things cost,
Yeah.
or at least have an
Okay.
idea.
Okay, I'll have a think about that. Thanks.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anybody. We did have somebody who did some very, very intricate paper, tiny, tiny, tiny little paper, sort of inside, they were like inside a toilet roll sized tube and
Yeah.
tiny little scenes in Charbry a couple of years ago.
Oh,
Um,
I would like to track that person
I'll
down if
see if
you
I can
remember.
find out who she is and whether she's got anything. I don't know whether she's still around.
Okay, thanks.
Um, And I suppose the other thing that might be a comparison in terms of time would be sort of paper mache models.
Yeah, okay.
And there are people who do, oh, I don't know, really beautiful birds that have obviously taken a long time. And they may be I'm going to suggest the 100 to £150 mark, but they're quite big.
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
I'll check that
and
out
there's a
too.
paper sculptor in Chadlington, and I think she's called Eleanor Clutton Brock, and I think hers are that kind of price too, though I'd have to check.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, Louise?
I think I've unmuted myself. Yes.
Yes.
My sister-in-law, who exhibits with me in Adderbury Church, in St Mary's Church, Adderbury, Lainey Samuelson, she does little sort of scenes in frames so that they've got done with paper, cut up pieces of paper and card and things like that,
Yeah.
and makes a little scene. So maybe that's sort of something similar.
Oh, what's her name, Louise?
Lainey Samuelson, Lainey Samuelson. She makes lots of things out of recycled bits and
That
pieces.
sounds amazing. Thank you
Oh,
very
she's
much.
fantastic. She's and I'm saying that not just because she's my sister-in-law, but
Great. Thanks a lot. I'll check
Yeah.
that out. Thank you.
Okay.
Kirsty, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. Am I unmuted?
No, we can hear you.
I didn't get to introduce myself because I was having tech problems at the beginning. I'm what you call a beginning artist. So if I was to do prints, then how do you do that? Do you always do a limited run and say to people how much, or do you not have to do that, or how does it work?
You don't have to do a limited run. Some people do a limited run and, number them and sign them. Other
Mhm.
people just will print, and then if they run out, they'll print more.
Right, okay. You don't have
You
to
can
have like one of 20 written on it or anything like
No,
that.
you can charge, generally you can charge more if they say one off 20 and things. I think if you're doing a limited edition run, then it's probably particularly important to make sure that the quality of the printing is really good, that they're not, they are probably G-clay prints or whatever. Um, I mean, I don't know whether this is too obvious, but if you take them to the printers and they scan it to really, really high resolution. I presume we're talking paintings or something here. They'll
Yeah,
scan it to a really high
yeah,
resolution. Um, and then you'd be able to choose as well whether you want them at A4 or
yeah.
A5 or
Okay. And sorry, I've actually got three questions because there's another one. Do people use certificates of authenticity and is that necessary? So I don't really understand that.
some people do. I don't know whether I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, good.
But I suppose again for some people it's part of their branding of this is sort of exclusive and bespoke, and so there are only 100 and I've signed a certificate and I've got a gold sticker on it and
Yeah. Is that only relevant to prints then? The certificate of authenticity? I
no,
don't
I
really.
think actually some people do it for their paintings too, but not many. I think it's quite
Okay.
I
It's not a
yeah.
necessary thing.
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, I'm hogging the chat here, but third question, is there any guidance on pricing of original cards? I tend to make little sort of collagey mixed media.
There's quite a lot of people who make those kinds of cards. I would say you're probably looking in the £5 to £7 bracket. But
Okay.
again, it depends on, I mean, there'll be some people who probably charge a lot more and some people who charge less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Any other questions on?
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Can you see me and hear
Yes.
me? All right, yeah. I'm also a little bit late because I had to travel to London because my brother-in-law's 60th birthday due is later. So just a little bit late. But my name is Pew Gordon. And yeah, I just newcomer as well. And I have lived in other countries before, but only moved to England like 3 years ago. So I'm trying to start. I don't want to go back to business world, so I'm trying to do my own painting and art stuff. And I have a question about some of my lacquer paintings. I did when I lived in Vietnam before. I'm originally from Burma, and yeah, so here is the lacquer art is still a little bit strange here still, I think, because it's more like in Asia stuff, yeah. And I find it a little bit hard to do the pricing for my art pieces. Uh, and they are like quite small, not very big paintings, and they are a little heavy because they are on treated wood.
Mm-hmm.
I have absolutely no idea. I know from my teacher about his pricing and stuff, but his paintings are huge. So if I charge like between the range of 150 and £250 range for the small ones, like a 5 or a 4, I mean, is it kind of reasonable? Like you said, I don't want to, make it very low price that, it's my ability and I have to really take a lot of time, sanding, trying, painting, drying, all sorts of stuff as well. So I just want a little bit of advice on that.
I think that charging that kind of price sounds fine if it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
It's about judging how um how keen you are to sell, I suppose, as well, though.
right.
What you could do is price them slightly high, to the higher end of what you think at the beginning of the week, and
Yeah.
you can gauge it. And if,
Yeah.
because are you exhibiting near Banbury? Is that right?
Yes, that's right. In Sifford
Dipford,
Ferris. Yeah, Sifford Gower. Yeah.
So you could see who, if you're exhibiting for 2 weekends or the whole week, I can't remember.
1 week. Yeah, 1 week. 2 weekends. Yeah.
So you might see what the response is on the first weekend, because you can
Yes.
always drop the price, of course, on the
Right.
second weekend, but you can't put your prices up.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the other thing, particularly with something that's very intricate or takes a lot of time, is if you are there as an artist, if you are present and you are explaining your process,
Yeah.
people, they'll pay more because
Yes.
they've met you and they rationally
Yeah.
they know that somebody's made something in a gallery,
Yeah.
or that it's on a wall of a gallery. But if you
Yeah.
meet you and they see the studio and they're kind of paying, they're not paying for the experience of coming and meeting you and seeing
Yes,
it,
that's
but it's
right.
all
Yeah.
wrapped up together.
Oh,
And I think
okay. Yeah.
it's important to be, if you're clear, so perhaps in your studio, if you say, okay, so here's one at this stage of work where I've cut out the small pieces of wood to, and then this is where I've coloured the wood and this is where I've laid it out, and almost like here's the one I made, the one in process.
Oh
If you're
yeah.
showing people the process so they understand the amount of work,
Yes, I have
that's a good thing to do, I think.
actually photos to put on a sort of ongoing kind of reel on my computer, how I work each step of the lacquer painting. So that might help, I think.
Yes. So I
I
think
will run that. Yeah.
uncovering the process for people, particularly if it is something that takes longer, takes a
Yeah.
long time.
It is really long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I did it in Vietnam, because of the humidity as well, have to wait, like I have to work on many pieces and just dry each one and work on that sort of thing. And I also do a lot of portraits as well. So I'm going to exhibit my portraits and landscapes and all sorts, whatever I
And
did.
are they in lacquer too?
No, they're in watercolor, oil, and acrylic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, it
just
might be that you're just this year just kind of gauging the reaction and the price
yes,
point.
I think so, because I don't know what kind of audience I will have. It's my first time of a solo exhibition. So I think just test the waters probably for this time. And I don't mind if I don't sell anything, because I'm quite attached to those paintings as well.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
what you said, probably I would do that with the how I make kind of videos, not videos, just photo in loops. Yeah, showing that, and just put the price a little bit that I would like to for the first week, and then just test the waters. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second week, I have only 1 week actually. Yeah, because we're not Oxfordshire in there. So 2 weekends actually. Yeah.
So any other questions on pricing or those things? Elaine, Delane.
No, no, I think
You've got your hand up there, have you?
No, sorry, I didn't.
Oh no, hang on. That's my mouse has turned into a crazy little glove. I'll move it out of the way.
How exciting!
I had my mouse balanced on your head, Elaine. Don't worry.
No, the information you gave was very comprehensive, and as you say, I'll just make the decisions about what I want to achieve. Yeah. So thank you.
I think it all comes back to that, and I think people forget that sometimes. There's so many of you with different aims and goals. It's about what are you trying to get out of it?
Yeah.
So, any other questions on pricing or anything related, or anything else really? Jane, you'll need to unmute.
Are there any copyright rules? Like if you're selling a painting and you've made a card of it, for instance, can the buyer object?
They shouldn't. The copyright remains with you as the artist.
Right.
But you're right that if you sell an original at a huge expense, and then they go to everybody else's houses. Everybody they know has got a print in their living room. They might be a bit put out. So I suppose it's a good point to be open, to be transparent about whether you make prints of them or don't. So you might say, for example, this is an original. There won't, it really is a one-off. There won't be any prints made of it. Or you might say, or it might be that you do make prints or cards of it. Of course, a print or a card it's a little bit different with photography, of course, but with a painting, a print or a card is never going to be quite the same as the original work itself.
Yeah. No,
Yes,
thank
but
you.
presumably, if people are concerned about paying the price for an original, you could offer to get a print of that made for them, of
Yes.
obviously the lesser cost. So maybe that would be a way of promoting the art.
Yes. Yes, I mean, you could offer that. I mean, it's obviously then going to be time for you to take it to the printers and get it scanned by the printers, which I think is about £25, £30. Does anybody,
Yes.
Joe, do you have an idea of how much it is to have a picture, a kind of high res scan of a work?
No, I've just only ever done prints from a home scanning, which has also brought out decent qualities that, if you want something simple.
Yes, I mean, that's true as well. You can have really high quality prints, but you can also have kind of the cheap and cheerful end of prints if you've got a good home
Yeah, there's
printing
quite a
printer.
variety. And certainly as far as copyrights go, you can just say that you either need to say you're going to do prints of or not do prints of.
Right.
I think that's fair to do that. And obviously don't photocopy each other's work and sell it. That would be bad.
Yes.
Yes.
You can
Thanks.
say on the back copy of anonymous, but that's of something you've painted. But
And we do
that's
also
slightly
see
different.
people who do copies of other works. So you might get a, kind of Van Gogh inspired thing, but nobody's, as far as I know, nobody's trying to pass it off as an old master.
No, you just put a copy of. If you know the painter, put the painter's name. If not, you can put just copy of anonymous or in the style of anonymous.
We do have quite a few artists actually whose paintings are based very heavily on photographs, and there they would credit the photographer and they would have asked for the photographer's permission because that is the photographer's copyright, that particular scene, that particular composition. And so if you were copying a painting, painting something like that, then you should be crediting them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it's not really something that we worry about too much at this, this kind of art weeks kind of level.
Yeah, fine. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Brill. Well, I think it's time for a top up of tea.
I'm going to say thank you for a very useful meeting. I don't think I'm going to make the next two. I think I'll probably have to do them on catch up. So
okay, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. So where are you exhibiting?
I'm in Whitney. I'm exhibiting in Bampton at West Ox Arts.
Oh, right, cool. Yeah.
If you have any questions, just give me a ring or drop me an email and we can arrange a time to go through anything.
Yes, because that's what I didn't say at the beginning of the session, and I should have done, is one of the reasons why we really like these sessions is that as Art Weeks, which is basically Joe and me, we try and be kind of friendly and accessible. That's what we like. We like to think of ourselves. Best smile, Joe. We like to think of ourselves as friendly and accessible. So do feel that you can just email in or give us a ring. And that's one of the reasons I think for you guys, once you've met us at a session like this, you feel you can. And until that, we're just a name on a piece of paper. And maybe it feels a bit.
Yeah, it's really nice to meet you both. Thank you.
So, okay, right.
So I think I can't make the next one either, but where should I find it on YouTube? Will you send a link?
So it will be in the next newsletter which we send out, but that will be a couple of weeks from now. I will put it on the Facebook group. Now, have you joined the Facebook group? Okay. Also, it's worth noting down that on the website, the Art Weeks website, which is about to have a revamp for 2026 information, but there is a section called For Artists. And in that, you can buy promotional stuff and there's all sorts of stuff in there. But one of the bits is members' resources. And in that, you can download the logo, you can download the festival poster, you can download Wait, and then all the newsletters are in there. So as soon as a newsletter's sent out, basically it goes in there too. And I will put the links to the videos there as soon as they're up. So
Okay,
that's
thank you very
probably
much.
a couple of days into next week.
Thanks so much.
In this session, we're talking about planning your exhibition. So we've talked about pricing, and now I'm going to run through the practicalities of approaching and setting up an exhibition. Now, it is not rocket science, so apologies if we're teaching you to suck eggs. And some of you I know have had exhibitions before. Some of you have had quite a lot of exhibitions before, one or two of you. And so this is possibly going to be just ridiculously simple. But what we're trying to do is give you the common sense on how to be organised and give yourself plenty of time. And hopefully there'll be some tips in here which will help you avoid a potential pitfall or two, whether you're exhibiting on your own or in a group, whether you're at home or in a hired venue. And please do feel free to pipe up and ask questions, because it is nice to have that kind of back and forth rather than just me talking. Or you can put things into chat, or you can email things later as well, or phone. So we've got 14 weeks, I think, before the festival, particularly of your first week, which is the south area, south region, and they will fly by. So the very first thing is, if you haven't got any work for your exhibition, it's about time you started making some. And as you're making work or thinking about what work to include in your exhibition, remember to think about your display space and what you'll be able to include. Because what you create, or what you might choose to create between now and May, could partly depend on the space that you have. So if your art is wall art, think about how you're going to hang it. Check out the hanging system at the venue or with your exhibition organiser. So it might be that you need screw eyes on either side of a frame. It might be that there's boards with pins in and everything needs to be strung. Just find out what you need to do beforehand so that you're not doing it at the last minute. And if you're at home, how are you going to do it? Are you going to put nails in your wall, or are you going to come up with a different system? The simplest one I ever saw that worked brilliantly was a lady had just put planks, sort of clean, crisp, cheap pine planks, propped up against her walls, just slightly propped, just slight slants, with nails in, and she'd hung her pictures on those planks. And she didn't need to do anything to her actual walls. She just carefully put those planks around the living room. It worked brilliantly, and she didn't need to do any additional any patching up afterwards or anything. Now, if you're exhibiting on someone else's walls, check what you're allowed to do. There was one difficult occasion, it's a few years ago now, where an artist arrived to hang their work in a pub and only then discovered, excuse me, that she could only use the nails that were already in the wall. And her pictures were the wrong sizes to work in those preordained spots, and it was not her finest moment. So just bear that in mind, that you know exactly what you're working with. You might also like to think about having a centerpiece to your exhibition on show, perhaps something bigger or quirkier than the rest of your work to catch people's attention and maybe provide a talking point. It could be something that you'll never sell. It could be something that you've borrowed back. Could be anything really, something bigger or something just quite different. But just it might be, particularly if all your work is quite uniform, it might just provide a sort of separate conversation. So, as we said before, think about your exhibition as a sort of step in developing your brand. Your exhibition as a whole is an extension of you and who you are as an artist, as well as a stall of your art. So you're really wanting people you wanted to encourage people to enjoy their visit, to remember your art, your creations, your style, and you want them to leave feeling that they want to see more from you in future, because that could be just as important as them making that one-off purchase right now. If they make a purchase right now and walk away, but they forget you instantly, they never come back, you might do much better just engaging with someone who really likes you, and becomes part of your mailing list, and then, comes several times in future and buys things more often, than just that once. And of course, I should say, selling isn't all about, it's not all about selling at all. And a proportion of our exhibitions are non-selling anyway. So a lot of it is about that engagement and how you trigger that engagement and what you would like to talk to people about if they're interested, or being prepared to talk about a breadth of things. So the success of an Art Weeks exhibition isn't necessarily measured in visitors and sales during the week. For some people, they'll keep stats, and for them, they like those stats. It maybe is about those stats. But actually, it's often about the results over the year or longer as you're building your name or building your following. And there are lots of artists who've been exhibiting in Art Weeks for years, 10 years, 20 years, and they've now got a big mailing list of buyers, which they've built by adding a relatively small number each year, but the number's growing over time. And those people on their mailing list come back and now have several paintings by them or several pieces or whatever. We also have some members who are looking for commissions, or they're looking to fill workshops and courses with students. And again, they can only really gauge the success of an Art Weeks and the festival itself once that year is up and they know what commissions came in, whether they had full courses and those kinds of things. And it's very normal for a visitor to come to visit an artist 2 or 3 times before commissioning a portrait or buying a big piece. So they might be sizing you up as well as the quality of your work. So you never know what's going on in those visitors' heads. So any questions at this point? No? Okay. So when you're preparing your wares, you should also think about small, low-priced items, whether they're tiny bowls or bookmarks or handmade cards, as well as the kind of the mainstay of your exhibition, if you like. And you should also have something free for people to carry away. Probably, we don't tell any of you exactly what to do, but we suggest that you have something free. But that could be a business card or a home printed flyer advertising your web address or your Etsy shop or your next event or your workshops, if you've got those things. You might even consider having a couple of sets of business cards or postcards that are different so that you can offer them to people and they get a choice. And it's a very simple thing to do. You just double up with your business cards and they both got a picture on and they both look different. But you're giving people a choice, so they're choosing their favourite version. So when they leave, they feel as if they've carried something away that they picked themselves. You've not just thrust upon them a flyer with the picture that you think everybody's going to like the best. You've given them a choice and they choose the one they like best. So that also then gives you a little bit of feedback on which of your pieces perhaps is most popular. The one that you thought was going to be everybody's favourite. Actually, most people are choosing the other one. And I always hear stories when I go around Art Weeks and I'll say to someone, oh, I like that, I like that painting or whatever. And they'll say, you know what, I nearly didn't hang that one because it didn't quite sit right with me, but everybody's commenting on it. Everybody's loving it. And then they'll say, but the one I thought was going to sell, immediately is still kicking around at the end of the week. So it's amazing. You just can't tell. So that can be quite a useful little game with yourself, really. Which one is going to be most popular of those two? So you're wanting people to leave with something that serves as a reminder, even if it's just to remember your name when they tell friends that they've been to see your exhibition. And I would recommend that each of you have an individual exhibition information sheet or biography or something on display with your work and have copies available for visitors to take away, whether you're in a large group or on your own. And you can get that ready well ahead of time. It's exactly the same sort of thing that I recommend including in your artist portfolio online. Pretty much the same text will be fine. So if you're coming tomorrow, then that will kind of tick that off probably. And the reason to put it in your artist portfolio is that there's lots of people who won't be able to visit in person who could, in theory, visit your artist portfolio online. But we'll be talking about that tomorrow. So if you're going to have anything professionally printed, make sure you're thinking about doing that probably in March. Get it done and out of the way early. And remember to include your Art Weeks listing number from the festival guide. You also may be one of those people who exhibits or shows their stuff most of the time under a trade name or a brand name, do also make sure you've got your artist name on that flyer or card or whatever as well, because that's how people from Artweeks are going to know you. They're going to know you as a person. That's deliberate. What we are is an artists' festival. We are not a conglomeration of brand names and trading names. We try and be approachable. We try and be friendly. We try and be people. We're about people and the art they create. We're not about trading names. So that's why we're really big on using people's actual names. So that's getting it out of the way, you kind of something for people to take away. Once you know what you're including in your exhibition, you should decide on prices, which we've already talked about, and produce price tags and a price list, whether the exhibition is your own or you're part of a larger group. Now, personally, I like to see price labels on the wall or the table, so I or visitors can see instantly what price bracket your pieces are in. I know, though, that some people think that that's messy or it looks mercenary, and they prefer a numbering system which refers back to a price list or some other method of pricing. So all systems are equally valid. Just make sure that your visitors can find out the price without having to ask. I really recommend that because people can be very shy about asking, and particularly if they can't afford it, then they're even less likely to ask. And then if they do ask and you give them a price and then they say no, it looks like they don't think it's worth it, and then they'll feel bad. So that's why I recommend having prices quite straightforwardly available. Now, if you're joining a larger group, then the way that the art is organised will be down to your group and your group organiser. Who's joining a large group here? A few, okay. Now, some group organisers are super organised. Oh, I haven't asked, is anybody a new group organiser themselves? Okay. So some group organisers are very organised, super organised approach. They want everybody's information well beforehand. They're going to create a joint price list. Everybody's price tags are going to have the same branding, or they're all going to be on brown card with string and a little Artweeks logo, or whatever it is, or a fancy system involving barcodes. Other coordinators will have a much more laid back approach, more up to the moment approach. And so then for them, it might be completely up to you how you list and label your work and remember what you brought to the exhibition in the first place. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. But if you are part of a group, just be aware of any mismatch between your careful precision and your coordinator's laissez-faire approach, or vice versa. Because there is a potential cause of tension there. So your relationship with your group and your group organizer is going to be a large part of how you're feeling about your whole Artweeks experience when you look back on it. So just make sure you know what the group organizer is expecting from you and when, and give it to them without them having to chase. Because if they're chasing a group of you, the last thing they need is someone to be not giving them what they need. So please, that's a plea from group coordinators, please give them what they need. Now for new, go on, Louise, are you asking a question?
Sorry, yeah, you froze in the middle there, and this is really important for me.
Right,
it's my first time is that I'm the group coordinator, and so I lost you in the middle of be careful if your expectations are different and there's going to cause conflict, and I'm sort of what, and then you froze.
Okay, yes, well, don't freeze, it's okay. I think the thing to do, whether you're in a group, but as a coordinator too, is just make sure you're really clear what you need from people and when. Because I don't think it's fair on a group coordinator. I'm telling everybody who's within the groups if they don't have it. Some people do have a very laissez-faire approach. They would show up on the day, then they'd work out what pictures they're hanging and they'll try and scribble it down on a quick piece of paper then, or make up the prices in the morning. Other people will have already had it all prepared by the 1st of January, stacked up, wrapped in bubble wrap, ready to go. So within a group, you'll probably get both types of people. I think as a group coordinator, work out what's most important, and there will be somebody who probably doesn't deliver what you need or the information you need, and you kind of let it go and try and be relaxed about it. But I think it's important that if everything is said clearly about, I don't need that, you can, as a group coordinator, you could say, okay, I've organised the church, but you all show up. There'll be a table out for everybody, take their own table, put up their own stuff, put out their own price list, and I don't need to do any of that. But there will be other people who plan, other group coordinators who want to do a joint price list. They might want to alphabetize everything. Different people have different ways of doing it. So I think just be clear on what works for you, Louise, and then tell everybody. And if there are gaps in your price sheet, that's fine. Make sure that you just have a plan that on the last day they pop a sticker on there, ones that aren't on the price sheet or whatever. Put on the price sheets, for works that aren't on this list, please ask. So it's just about being organised, really. It really isn't anything more than being organised.
Yeah, we don't have anything joint price lists or anything like that because there's 15 of us, so we're all got our table area in the church that we're in, and I'd never imagined that doing so I don't think that's going to happen.
No, that's a very common way. There are lots of places too where they have a kind of an overarching list of what's there, so that if all the artists aren't there at the same time, then somebody else knows what everything that's there.
Yeah, no, we have everything is priced in, they have their own things are priced.
That's straightforward.
Quite often, not everybody's there, so the people that are there can easily go and see the price, and see what and take the money for.
Yeah, it's sometimes just useful to have, if you've got, say, maybe 10 people and one person is taking payment for people that are not there, to have triplicate books, just so that obviously if the item hasn't been taken, that the person that's bought a piece has got a receipt, and also you've got a receipt you can give to the artist if they're not there, so that you've sold a piece on their behalf.
Yeah, kind of clear record taking. And that's the same that if you're within a group, if you don't give your group coordinator a list of everything that's there, or you throw a few extra things in at the last minute, or you show up without something that you said will be there, then there's a potential for something to go a little bit amiss there, because there'll be money taken, but there's a painting or a pot that's not on the list, and vice versa. So just bear in mind, trying to be as organised as you can, really. If you're in a group or you're organising a group, you're probably not all going to be there all the time. So the group organiser will also need to organise a rota of who's invigilating the exhibition and when. So again, you might be asked to invigilate at certain times. And obviously, if you could do that, that would be great. So any questions about kind of being within a group like that?
Can I just ask a question? I'm Ginny, by the way. Are you suggesting that receipts should be given when someone purchases something?
Sorry, I can't quite hear.
Are you suggesting that receipts should be given if someone purchases something?
We're suggesting that there is a clear way of making a record. So if somebody is selling a piece of your work, if you go in and they say, oh, we've got, I don't know, £150 for you, Ginny, and you say, oh, okay, what's sold? And they don't know. Then that leaves you you're going to either have to go through it and work it out, or maybe you don't mind. But if there's a list of everything that's in the venue, then somebody can cross it off. Now, so it's as simple as that, really. Or a receipt is written, or a receipt book, or just as the piece goes out with somebody, a note is made of exactly what it is and whose work it was.
You don't think the customer has to have a receipt?
Most customers probably won't want one. It's really about the record keeping for you.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to think about your venue. Now you'll have different things to think about if you're exhibiting alone or in a group. Who's exhibiting from home here?
Me.
So we have got some home. Yeah. Okay. So if you're exhibiting from home, give yourselves plenty of time to tidy the house and check and minimize trip hazards. And it's sensible, of course, to hide away any valuables or personal items, though there have only been 2 incidents of theft that we've known about over the last 15 years. And one was a wallet that was left on the sideboard of a house in a town centre, and one was a small picture that was taken from a pub wall. So, it's pretty few and far between, but do just, be sensible about it. And also remember to tidy the garden or the front of the house. Keep it tidy because this is a bit like online dating. First impressions count. So if somebody's showing up and you're all scruffy or your house is all scruffy, you're not doing your best job by yourself. So a bit of self-respect, nice tidy lawn, and I know, bright eyes and bushy tail. So also do check that the loo is presentable in case someone asks to use it. You don't have to be offering it up, but you never know who's going to come and how many other venues they've visited. If you're going to several venues on the trot, the chances are at some point you might need to go to the loo. Think about too whether you're going to be on your own while your venue's open, while your house or your studio's open, or will another member of the household be on call? Or might you ask a friend to come over if you're on your own for half an hour slot to give you a break at breakfast, a break at lunchtime or something? Just because it could be a long day on your own. And if it's a weekend day and you've got quite a lot of visitors, you might quite welcome a little bit of respite at some point. Now, it's too late to make changes in the festival guide now, but if you do need to make any changes to your opening times at the last minute or whatever, you can do that, or you'll shortly be able to edit your listings, your exhibition details on the website again. Or if you're in a group, your exhibition organizer would do this. So do change any changes to times, do change those on the website so that the website is correct. In the festival guide, we do suggest that everybody checks before traveling, but of course nobody really does because everyone just goes with the festival guide pages. So we therefore would ask that if you are shut when you've advertised to be open, that you put a sign up saying, "I'm really sorry I've had to shut unexpectedly or for whatever reason." And then please suggest to them another local venue or two that they could go to, because then they know that you've thought about them arriving and being disappointed, and you're minimizing their disappointment because you're saying, however, do go and visit, Ginny, who's 2 miles in the next door village, 2 miles away in the next door village, or visit Sheila, whose pots are really cool and her studio's open today, or whatever. So just think about those visitors if they're turning up and you're not there. But anyway, that's getting ahead of ourselves. Back to the exhibition. Think about parking. Before you think about your venue, think about parking. You might want to warn the neighbours if in your close, in your street, that you're going to have this exhibition. You may have people coming by, and that's a really good time to give them a flyer about the event, tell them what it is, about your pop-up gallery while you're at it, and hopefully they'll come along. Think about signage, and we'll cover that later in the promoting your exhibition workshop. And check your public liability insurance if you have it, if you feel you need it. Now, this is something we're often asked about. If you feel you need it, then obviously put it on your to-do list to arrange it. Now, we are an artists organisation and we're promoting this umbrella festival. And the events themselves, though, they are yours or your venues if you're a part of a large group like Westox Arts. So you're organising them in venues of your choosing. So we can't insure your events because, I don't know, one of you might go for live fire throwing performance amongst your wicker sculpture, or we have exhibitions in schools and churches with rickety roofs and in the Ashmolean. So you can imagine what the premium would be. So clearly we can't insure events like those. Now, if you're in a group show in a hired venue or a venue that's normally open to the public, then that venue will almost certainly have its own public liability insurance. I mean, you can check, but it's pretty guaranteed. Most, but not all, home insurance policies are happy for you to open your home several times a year for open studios purposes, but some need telling in advance, so it's worth having a look at your policy if you think, if you're bothered about it. And alternatively, you can join the Artist Network. And this is probably the way I recommend if you are thinking you should have insurance, or Google Artists Network Insurance. And it's www.a-n.co.uk. And that is £38 a year for a single artist or art organiser. There are other options too. I think it enables you to do a certain number of events in a year, and it includes 10 million public liability
I
insurance.
think that's still only for 2D though, isn't it?
I'm not sure whether
They
small.
always used to be 2D.
Yeah. So, Ginny,
Hi, I actually managed to get insurance for £30 in October from Axis.
Actis.
Axis, AXIS. They
Okay,
just
Actis.
insure artists, but yeah, an incredible price.
That is worth knowing. Access. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, so some of our artists feel that they should have public liability insurance. Equally, probably just as many are happy to go without additional insurance for something that they don't think is any more risky than hosting an open garden or a Macmillan coffee morning. So it depends a little bit on, how big an event it is that you're holding, how many visitors you're expecting, and how risk averse you are. Again, so it all comes back to your own kind of personal decision making, really. But it's just something to think about whether you feel you need it. Any questions on insurance or anything? Nope. Okay. So now,
I've got a question. Ginny, could you say it again what the company was?
Yeah, it's Axis, AXIS.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking at it now. I thought I'd found the right one, but thank you.
Great.
But I belong to the AN one, and I think that's fantastic. I've been a member of that, but it's handy sometimes to look outside of that occasionally if you're doing a big show. So thank you very much.
Pleasure. Actually, Axis, you basically join Axis as a member, and then included in the membership is the public liability insurance.
Oh, I see. So it's exactly the same then as the one that Esther said, the
Artist
Network.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Brilliant. Okay, so now you've got your art, your price tags, your price list, your insurance, and I'll talk about payment methods and refreshments in a minute. But it's time to get back to your display space in detail, and this is for everyone here. But measuring the space, checking you've got exhibition stands or display stands that you'll require. Now, in a group, you'll need to decide ahead of time where each person is putting their work, or will everything be mixed together? If you're a new group, make sure you've decided this well ahead of time. And in both kinds of venues, whether you're groups or you're at home or whatever, please give yourself plenty of time to set up. I have been, as much as you can, I've been to an artist once where they were still painting the venue walls on the first morning of Art Week. So I'm not talking a fresco here. This is Dulux white on a roller. So we suggest that wherever you're exhibiting, you prepare a box of useful things that you're going to need, or you might need, so that they are to hand at a moment's notice. They're so obvious, but it's easy to forget something. So this would be your red dot stickers for sold items, a receipt book, because somebody could ask, pen and paper, scissors, sellotape, blue tack, maybe a screwdriver, spare hanging hooks, perhaps fishing wire, pins, brown paper or bubble wrap or both, and bags, string, float, spare price labels. Did I say pens? Put an extra pen in, they always go missing. So other really practical tips are, if you're hiring a venue and you check if you have to pay a deposit and if you've paid it, and then check when you need to pay the balance and pay it, because you don't want to be in that awkward position of turning up on the morning and they've rebooked it out to the yoga class because you hadn't actually paid when you needed to. So just make sure you don't miss kind of the payment date for a venue. Now, if you're part of a large group and you've been allocated a display board or space or whatever it is, don't just check the size of the space, the table, the display board, but does it need covering? And what are you allowed to fix to it? What are you allowed to put on it? Are there any rules? It could be the weight of things that can go on a table if you've got a lot of pottery. And then measure the space out on your floor at home, lay the work out and see how it looks, how it fits. Now, Jo would recommend that you take a photo or draw a plan of exactly how how you lay it out at that stage. Because on the morning of the day, if you're turning up at a church hall or a church and you are in a large group on a hanging day or laying out day, the morning of Art Week's opening, time will whip past. Those hours will concertina into 5 minutes between 10 and 12. So make those decisions before the day. Also, check beforehand where there are lighting and power points, particularly if you need them, if you've got access, whether you've got access to them. Do you need an extension lead? Do you need to tape it down with industrial black and yellow stripy tape so that nobody trips over it? If you're taking lights or maybe a computer with some scrolling imagery of work or whatever, do you need to have it cat tested beforehand? And then will there be space perhaps by your table or your browser, by your display boards for a browser or a card stand or anything like that? Are you going to have sort of additional accessory type things as well? If you're displaying onto a table, what table covering are you going to use? You can go black, dark grey is often good. And then think about things that you can put underneath it to give your display height and depth. So that could just be an upside down flower pot or some books or a piece of wood on 2 bricks could be a good shelf. But just think about adding height to the back of your table to just give it a bit of character, a bit of shape. Maybe add a house plant or something just to add a bit of colour. So think about how you're going to present it. Then, so you've already made the bulk of those decisions before you get to your venue. Then when you're getting the car ready, as you wrap things for transit, please label them because you think you will remember. It's like Christmas. You wrap all the presents, you're sure you're going to remember which is for which person, but they always look a bit more, they all look a bit the same once they're all wrapped. So label them when you've wrapped them. It's best that things stay wrapped for as long as possible until you need them. And then if you're super organised, some people even pack the car so that the things they want to unwrap first are on the top. Like that's the A level, advanced level of car packing. But some people do, and it probably does make life easier. Then also pack a few spare pieces. Often the space will actually work out a little bit differently than you planned, or someone will buy something that leaves a big hole in your display. So that's worth thinking about in a home exhibition too. If you've got things to fill gaps with, should you have gaps? Now, I could ask if anyone's got a question, but I know what the question would be. We're always asked, do you let somebody carry away a piece with them? Or do they have to come back at the end of the exhibition? The answer is, it's up to you, but we recommend that if possible, people come back and collect things at the end of the week. So then you've got your full exhibition up for visitors to enjoy when they come in the week or that last weekend. I mean, I once went to an exhibition and I was so disappointed. I was so looking forward to it. And it had finished because all the work had sold and gone. And I was like, oh, but it's only the Saturday of the second week. So if you can get people to leave stuff, please do. But of course, that's not always practical. Sometimes people have travelled from a long way, or they're on holiday or whatever. So it is a mixture, but try and ask people to leave it if they can. If people are coming back for a piece, though, at the end of the week, we do recommend you take payment up front. And we'll talk about taking payment in a minute. But do try and get, or at least a deposit, because otherwise there will be some flaky customers who don't come back and collect it, and that will be a real shame. So, but here we are. We're still actually only pulling up in the car. So depending on the location of your venue and the parking situation, if you can, have someone with you so that they can sit in the car while you shuttle in and out with your boxes. If you've got a year's worth of work in the boot, I don't know, especially if you're a silversmith or you've got big jewel, golden gemstone things, I don't know. You don't want to be leaving that in the car while you're shuttling up and down the stairs or running to your venue or whatever. So leave someone in the car if you can. When you arrive at a group venue, don't go in clutching everything you've brought with you all at the beginning, because actually what you need to do is check out the state of the place when you get there, whether the tables are laid out or whether you know where you're going. Before you bring your stuff in. Otherwise, it's just going to be a jumble sale of tables and chairs and hammers and people and wrapped up pictures. And so we recommend if the group can get together first and set up those boards and those tables in the venue as completely as possible before anybody brings anything in to display on them. That's actually the easiest way to do it, and nothing will get damaged. Setup time is likely to be Saturday morning or Friday evening before a private view, maybe. And it's probably quite tight for time if you're hiring a space particularly. So combined stress levels could be running quite high. So try and keep things as simple and as pre-organized as possible. I mean, this is all so obvious, but just thinking about it and why is worth doing, I think. Then when the venue's ready, bring in your work. Set up your display as you pre-planned, and then Jo, who's really strict, she's much stricter than I am. Jo, fierce face. Jo says, walk away from it for 15 minutes. Don't overthink it. Don't fiddle too much. If you've put it out how you planned, it's probably pretty good. And this is the same at home. Don't overthink it. Put it up. It's probably fine. And then, yeah, of course, do some tweaking, but don't spend hours tweaking. You've probably got it fairly close the first time. In all venues, think about refreshments. So that's another kind of subhead in your notebook. Stock up on wine or tea bags or cake if necessary, whatever you think you'd like to offer. You might like to offer a drink or cake to visitors. You might not. Avoid cake with nuts. Some venues charge or suggest a donation to charity for refreshments, which is a nice touch. It makes it feel like that kind of extra community focus. And while we're thinking about refreshments at the venue itself, also it's probably a good idea to think about whether you want a private view. Most people do. We tend to recommend it, and I would send out invites for that maybe 3-4 weeks in advance. Now, again, Jo and I here have slightly different opinions on this. I say invite everybody you know, friends, family, neighbours, the Pilates class, the school mums, the guys from football. Tell them all to bring a friend. Fantastic. Pile them all in, squash them in. A private view can be a brilliant opportunity to boost sales and to get word of mouth out there at the beginning. If you've crammed 100 people into your garden shed studio, then they're going to have a story to tell all week, and they'll have told another 500 people that they were at this event crammed in a garden studio and they could nearly see the art. And that's getting the word of mouth out there. And if your people you've invited at the football club and the church and wherever, they don't come, they'll feel really guilty, and so they're bound to make it later in the week. So that's my view. Now, Jo's is different. She says this isn't the time to invite your friends and family, because if they're any good friends and if they're a decent family, they will come anyway. So your private view is the time to invite art lovers, people you know locally, colleagues, I don't know, you're a lawyer and you're an accountant and you're people that you know but don't know so well as people that might have purchased from you before. Because your friends and family, they're going to come anyway. Now, I say, give them lots of wine. It helps open the wallet. Jo says, be careful. The cost of alcohol can make a private view really quite expensive if you've invited all your friends and family and they all settle in for the evening. So, again, there's no right or wrong, but these are just things to think about. If you're serving wine, Jo says be mean, hire really small glasses, and limit your private view to an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours max. You might think about cheaper alternatives, which could be, I don't know, Pimm's or Bucks Fizz or non-alcoholic fruit punch. Or you don't have to have a private view in an evening. You don't have to have any alcoholic drinks at all. You could have a morning private view or an afternoon one. You don't have to have nibbles, or you can keep nibbles simple. I mean, think about whether you really want sticky or salty fingers handling all your work just ahead of your exhibition opening. So think about what you're serving to. Also, before you open, think about what your welcome is going to be. So if you're at home, are you going to put a sign on the door that says, welcome, ring the bell, or just come in, or follow the garden path, or are you going to leave the door open? And that will depend where your venue is as well, and where you are inside the house, or whether you're, whether you're going to be in the studio or whether you're going to be in the house, keeping an eye open for visitors going down the garden path. So just think about how to sign your studio and that welcome. Are you going to acknowledge people as they approach? Are you going to approach people? Are you going to have a name badge on? Will you have music on? I think the name badge is a good idea, actually. I should just kind of put a highlighter pen on that one. Will you have music on? And then again, what music is it going to be? And something gentle, something that works with your brand, something that works with your ethos. So all of these things, none of them are complicated. But if you're thinking about all of these things the night before, then there's a lot to think about. So think about how you're going to welcome people. Now, quite a few people will just be sitting quietly in the corner with a newspaper, or they'll be doing some of creating something new, and they'll say hello, and that and then let visitors browse quietly. Really, you will see some visitors. They come in, they're quite poker faced, or they may be looking at their toes mostly, and then they kind of sidle in quietly, look round, slightly look like they're quite scared, and then sidle out equally silently. You might get other people who want to come and they'll chat for hours, and they'll want to know all sorts about how you made things and why, and that's great. And Artweeks has got as many types of visitors as it's got artists of you guys. So there's every characteristic you can imagine is likely to could show up. So the one plea though is please don't follow your visitors around describing every piece of work at length. It does happen. And it's a bit too full on, it's a bit too much. So you're much better to just approach people and say, oh, that one was when I was on holiday in Bournemouth or whatever. I'm just going to be over here. Do come and ask me anything if you want. Gauge what the visitor is like, but don't follow them around telling them everything. They may be on a timeline, or, goodness, they might not even, your work might not be their thing once they arrive. So just bear that in mind, give them a little bit of space. Now do beforehand get a visitor's book to collect names, email addresses and comments. It's really interesting to see what people write. It's nice to record who's come, and you want those email addresses so that you can add them to or start to create a mailing list. So people who are interested today, but maybe not going to buy today, then you'd be crazy not to keep in touch with them. For GDPR reasons, you need to tell people, legally, you need to tell people what you're going to use their email address for, their information for. And so there's two things you have to tell them. One is what you're going to use the information for. So I would just put at the top of the page, add to my occasional mailing list, or I will tell you about art events and workshops I have coming up. So it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. But the other thing you should write is you can opt out at any stage. So just add that as a line too. You can then only use those email addresses for the purpose that you've told them. So you can't then email round about sponsoring your husband's marathon run, however good the charity is that he's supporting. So just make sure, those are the kind of rules that you need to be aware of. The other thing to think about ahead of time is how you're going to take payment. In a group, is this by artist? Is everybody taking their own payment? Is this at a single pay point? So some groups will collect all the money and then redistribute it at the end of the day or at the end of the exhibition. And if your money is going into a pot with everybody else's, that's when you need to be really sure of that you know how it's been recorded and how and when it will be paid. And keep your own record if you think you need to, of everything that you delivered and how much it was, and how much, what price label was on it, so that you can kind of tally things off at the end of the exhibition. So as Joe said, a duplicate or triplicate book helps to keep track of group sales. Because of the difficulties getting bank accounts for community groups, coordinators and group organisers, particularly the more informal groups, they may even be using a bank account in their own name. for gathering funds to print flyers or buy drinks or take payment for sold items. So if you are an organizer of a group, so maybe you, Louise, or anyone else who's a small group, just consider how to be transparent financially with your group. So it might be that you have a separate bank account that's got nothing else in it and everything to do with the Artweeks is in it. It's your name, but it's all Artweeks is your Artweeks group's money. Just should anybody query costs or expenditure. So just bear in mind a sort of transparency. Keep your receipts if you bought the Prosecco or whatever. I mean, we've never really had any issues of anything like that. But I think in this day and age, it's just worth being really clear on that. So are you going to have a cash box? Are you going to have float? Are you going to accept cash? The number of people who go around with cash now is probably fairly small as a proportion. So are you going to have a portable card reader? These days, they're fairly cheap and easy to use. You can get them from PayPal or SumUp. There's other ones too. And there are also apps now that you can use to take contactless payments on your phone. So they are things to think about. Think about those in good time. Some of the PayPal, SumUp machines, I think they can take about 10 days to kind of kick into action from when you trigger them. It varies from year to year. I think you often pay about £30 for the machine. It may even be less than that now, and you pay a very small percentage to PayPal, or they have slightly different models. I think they're much of a muchness, and we have lots of artists who use both. If you're thinking about using your phone, do just check, of course, that you've got internet or 5G connection, because otherwise you're going to be a bit stuck. There might also be people who are happy to or would like to do sort of instant bank transfer from their phones or pay you via PayPal, which is with an email address, your PayPal email address. So just make sure you have those account details to hand if you're happy to take payment that way. It's easy to do, or for many people, it's very easy to do. The other thing to think about if people are carrying things away is how are you going to package sales professionally? So remembering that this exhibition or this display is a representation of you as an artist, your work, your brand. So if someone has spent several £100s on something, you don't want to send them away with it in a crumpled old Sainsbury's bag. So are you going to have pretty boxes for earrings or offer eco packaging? Or maybe you are wrapping things in newspaper. Lovely and cheap. Well, actually, it's probably not these days, newspaper, but you're wrapping things in newspaper and then you are saying, I'm wrapping these in newspaper because I'm protecting the environment. So you're being explicit about why you're using old Sainsbury's bags or whatever it is that you are sending people away with. But you just want to make sure that it matches who you think you are as an artist and that it's kind of the work that you're creating. So that could be eco packaging, it could be kittens and whiskers and brown paper packages tied up with string. But just think it through beforehand and make sure you've got it to hand. And I think the final plea really is if you're using a hired venue, just remember to leave it lovely and tidy at the end of the week, because I'm sure you all would, but it occasionally has happened that things have been left a little bit below par and you or another artist might want to use that venue again next year. So you are a kind of representative of the artist community and of Artweeks. So please do leave it tidy and remove any signage that you've put up around the village or outside as well. Any other questions on kind of actual exhibitions? Any questions at all? Today, so far, we've priced our art and we've planned our exhibitions, so we're all set. But you've poured all that energy into your art and your setup, but your setup is no good if nobody comes to see it. So you need to think about, from now on really, about promoting your exhibition, which is simply telling people about it in all the ways available to you. Now, Artweeks, of course, provides a really strong brand and umbrella publicity that supports you with this. We've got a large, loyal following of people who come and visit the exhibitions. We print and distribute at least 50,000 copies of the paper guide. So it's actually the thing that the most number of copies are produced of in Oxfordshire at all. And then we have the digital version as well. So And we have, oh, I don't know, 250,000 views on the website in that kind of April, May period. We reach tens of thousands of people with the social media posts. That's ours and yours. So we get good support from the newspapers and the regional magazines and so on. So together we're building this real awareness about Art Weeks as a whole. And you'll all have seen it if you're driving around the county in May. The flags and banners are popping up on A roads and all over the place. And Art Weeks gives people the confidence to visit local events because it's such a well-known brand. Going into people's homes in particular can be unnerving for some people. You know, I don't know, they think there might be an axe murderer waiting down the side alley. But actually, if an axe murderer was going to do axe murdering, they'd be pretty foolish to advertise the address of where they were going to do that axe murdering, and somebody else might show up at any moment hoping to see a vase or a sculpture. So it's kind of, it gives people a sense of reassurance that we're a big event, big advertised event. And I think because of its established format, it makes it less daunting to visitors. So we're giving you a really good starting point. But actually, if anybody else was holding an event or setting up a business and they were relying on one source of information to get their information out there, you'd think they were missing a trick. So while we're giving you that solid event base, there's a lot more that you can do yourself to push your own exhibition. That all helps Art Weeks. The bigger Art Weeks is, it helps everybody. So we are a members organisation, and we ask all members to do what they can as well, to use all the channels you can think of to advertise yourself and the festival as a whole. Although we have a lot of visitors who travel a long way to come to Art Weeks, and there are people we know that come from various parts of the UK most years. I think they're tying in a visit to Art Weeks with visits to see friends and family generally. I'm not sure they're all coming just for Art Weeks, but they absolutely tie in their visits for the Art Weeks season. So we do have people who travel a long way, but we also know that the majority of visitors are fairly local. And the more advertising you do in your own patch, in your own backyard, well, slightly beyond your own backyard, in the streets around your own backyard, or the patch where you're holding the exhibition, the better. And then Joe and I are only relatively little, and Oxfordshire's pretty big, and the internet's even bigger. So we're relying on everyone to do their bit. And like all things, the more you put in, the more you get out. So if you're telling people about your Art Weeks exhibition and asking them to share and tell their friends too, then that awareness of the festival as a whole sort of increases exponentially. So where do you start? Well, firstly, let's talk about print and online media. In the next couple of weeks, check the date by which you need to send information yourself about your exhibition to any local village or parish newsletters. Those kinds of local things that we don't know about, but go through the doors of your village or your patch. They are really, really valuable because people do go to and support really local things. Maybe as well, the what's on sections of your parish websites and those kinds of things. So that's something that you should do. Now, it may be that you can send that information in April, but some of the local magazines, the Botley Sprout, I think there really is one called the Botley Sprout. I don't know why it's called Sprout. The Botley Sprout. Some of those magazines, mini mags, are only quarterly, and that's why you need to think about it now. Because if you need to send information in March for it to be out in April, you may need to send it in February. So that's why you should look at that now and make a note of when you need to send information in. Now, I will be talking to the bigger Oxfordshire magazines and platforms that are out there. They're a dwindling number compared to what they were pre-COVID, but there are still the Oxford Times and the Mail, the Herald series, the OX magazine. Ox in a Box is an online portal that we use. Round and About, which anybody who lives in certain parts of Oxford and South Oxfordshire will know Round and About, which reaches about 130,000 houses across Oxfordshire and South Oxfordshire and the Vale, Oxford as well. And so that's a brilliant vehicle. So I'm talking to all of those. But anything that's not in that list, do feel, you can send your own information into those places too, but do feel that you can send information into anywhere you can think of. One thing to note is that there's a difference between feature articles, which are planned and written ahead of time, maybe a month ahead, maybe longer than that, particularly for magazines where there's a slower printing process, and then news stories. Now, Artweeks itself isn't new. It isn't really news. So mostly I'm providing kind of fully formed preview pieces or enticing information packs to the Banbury Guardian about Banbury, or to the Henley Standard about Henley and Watlington, or so on. And I will send those with a selection of images. And so that's what I'm looking for in your Artweeks artist portfolio over the next few weeks. And you'll have had information on completing the artist portfolio in the January newsletter. It is a good idea to fill them out as soon as you can, if you can, for me and for anybody else looking at the website. It's not live yet. Those portfolios aren't live yet. They will go live with all the 2026 information in the next week or two. So it might feel really early, but it isn't. Those portfolios you can actually update all year round. They're not just for ahead of May. They're about you and your art, and you can use them as a mini website. If you don't have a website and you don't do social media, or you don't want to do social media, then those portfolios can be brilliant. In fact, the URL stays the same from year to year. Unless you change your name, the URL will stay the same. So you can even print cards with that Artweeks portfolio URL on. They're deliberately short so that you can do that. So now, the other thing I'm going to mention now is the online spring show, which again, if you've all studied your newsletters properly, you'll know all about. The online spring show, every single member can put something into that. Now, not all of you, not all our artists, in fact, most don't, not all the artists have their name and image in the festival guide. So it's a really good way to advertise you sort of independently of your venue, the online show. You can all have one image of your work in that online show, and people do use that as a portal, another way of choosing which venues they might want to go and see, because there's several hundred pictures of work. They'll choose the work that interests them, and they can see your portfolio, and then on the portfolio they'll see where you're exhibiting. So that's something that you should do, and that's by the information's in the newsletter, but you can send in your image with title, media, size, and price, or if it's not priced, then just put not for sale. And that's a really popular way for visitors to choose where to go. And it might be the very first piece of work that I see, the very first piece of your work that I see. It's when I begin to put you and put you and your work together in my head. So it's really, really great if you can do that sooner rather than later. It also gives you a chance of being in one of the glossy OX magazine's monthly features. They do a picture feature each month, 3 or 4 pages of their magazine is dedicated to Artweeks art, with 12 different images of different people's work. Surprisingly, not as many people as I think should send in submissions for that. And so the same people do come round again, maybe in the same year. And yet it's really a genuine opportunity for you guys to have your work in a magazine. And April, they normally look at newbies. They look at newcomers very often they start thinking about whether to put 12 Works by 12 Artweeks newbies in April. So do send something in for that. That would be great. So the online show then takes them to your portfolio. And in your portfolio, you could have 6 images of your work at minimum. You should have 6 images for it to go live on the website. That's because visitors have told us that if they go to the website and they click on and there's only one, they think, oh, that was a pretty poor click. So that's why we say 6. So that's but we're talking about that tomorrow. And if you can't come tomorrow, then tomorrow's session will be online. So that's the portfolio. Next up, think about posters and flyers. So as well as the festival guide itself, which we ask all of you to help distribute, a minimum of 25 copies per person, and don't keep them at your venue, get them out into the local town in April, because they're not helping anybody sitting in a pile in your hallway. So as well as the festival guide, we're also printing posters, which look the same as the festival guide cover. They're in A4 and in A3. Some of those are put up by a professional poster distributor, but he's only got one pair of feet. And between all of the Artweeks artists, we've got 1,000 pairs of feet. So we'd like everybody to put a couple of those up too. Or you can print them at home, though they won't be as glossy, but they are already it's already on the members resources section of the For Artists part of the website. So do use those liberally. So that will look like the front of the festival guide. So find local places to put those up. And what's really important, you see, with about Artweeks, is that you are helping send people from Didcot to Banbury or Bampton to Henley and vice versa. So we want, if you do what you want the people on the other side of the county to be doing for you, and that's what sends all of our visitors whipping around all the different patches year in, year out, going to different places. We want visitors to explore, yes, of course, we want them to explore their hometown first, or their hometown, but we want them to explore different places over those 3 weeks. We also have posters available as PDFs, where there is a header strip with the Artweeks logo and a little tiny bit of information about Artweeks, that it's happening through May and that there are lots of venues, and the rest of it is blank, and that's for you to print onto put your own work onto that if you like. Now, increasingly, lots of you are really good at your own design. You can use Canva, you can, I don't know, cut and paste with your JPEGs and your TIFFs and create things yourself. But not everybody can. And so those are available for people to print out and then overprint with their own things if they want. Now, those you can put maps on, you can put there are 7 artists in this village and put pictures and names. So they're completely up to you what you do with them. They are just a resource. But I would suggest that you put those, community notice boards in the co-op, outside the children's school. If you've got friends who have a window on a path that's a really popular dog walking path, perhaps they'll put one up. And also make a note to put one in the window of your car. Clearly a side window where it's not going to obscure your view. But actually, again, if 1,000 artists put a poster in the back window of their car, in that run up to Artweeks and during Artweeks, that's a lot of little posters driving around on the roads. You might also like to think about putting a leaflet together about your own show. So it need only be simple. Lots of people do fancy ones, but it can be just printed on your at-home printer. Make sure you've got your name, your address, your opening dates, and an example of your work, the Artweeks logo, and your venue number. Now, you get someone else to cast their eye over it before you print it, because you'd be surprised the number of people that forget to put something key on it and only realise afterwards. Homegrown for this kind of flyer is absolutely fine. There are people who have them professionally printed, and in which case start thinking about it sooner than later. But it doesn't need to be fancy. If there's a village school, ask if they'll put them into school book bags. Often the receptionist or the school office are very happy to do that, and then that's 100 families suddenly in one drop off at the school, and 100 families in the village know about your exhibition. When you're putting the guide out and about in your local doctor's surgery, hairdressers, fish and chip shops is a good one, because people are always looking to read something for 5 minutes while they're waiting for their batter to fry. Put your flyers into the guides that you are taking out into your local community, because then, and pop your flyer in the page of your exhibition too, whichever one you're sending people to. So that's just, that's a good way of them opening the guide on your exhibition first, because of course we all know that you all want people to come to you first and then go off to other places. When you've created your flyer, you should also send it electronically or create something similar and send out to your contacts a save the date email, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ahead, with the link to the Artweeks website and the festival flipbook or the festival PDF. And those links we will send out next month, because although we've sent out we've sent it out already with the last newsletter, and you've all seen the guide. There's 1 or 2 tiny tweaks that we're making before the printers are making. So there'll be a kind of finalized final version next week. So that first email, 3 or 4 weeks ahead, should then be followed with with a reminder maybe within the week of your exhibition starting. And the other thing we're going to do is in the next newsletter, there'll be a graphic that's very small and thin that you can put at the bottom of all emails as a footer, if you like. It's already in the members resources section on the website, but we will send that out. Or email if you can't find it. It's already on the bottom of my email, probably on the bottom of Joe's, I'm not sure. Is it on the bottom of yours yet? Yeah, cool. So in promotional terms, you can also invite people you know are never going to make it in person. So the Canadian rallies or your colleague who's on holiday in the Bahamas, because then you can invite them to visit your artist portfolio and you might even make a sale or two that way. That does happen. So some people put everything online or even exhibit only online, and it can work that way. That's something to think about if you're exhibiting for real and you're putting your work up online, is how much of your work to put up online in the run up to the exhibition. So you can, and people do, upload everything that they're going to show. Or even they're on social media showing everything in progress as they're making the works as well. That's, in some ways, that's brilliant. But there may be some people who then feel they don't need to come and see it for real. So this is another thing where you need to just think, what do I want out of this exhibition? Do I want the maximum number of people to see everything I'm producing? Online is fine. Or am I using this online, my kind of online influence as an encouragement for coming to see the art for real? Are you trying to maximize real people or maximize kind of your art under people's eyes online? So that's just something to think about for if you're producing what you put in your online portfolio and what you send out to people before the exhibition starts, or what teasers you give. In early April, you'll be able to collect any Artweeks promotional material that you've ordered from a local distribution point. So that's flags and bunting. Hands up if people ordered. Hands up if people have ordered those. Does anybody not ordered it and thinks that maybe they should? Okay, so it's available to order from the website only for the next few days, though we do order a few spare because we only produce them once a year. We haven't got the space to sort of store them from year to year. The flags are called, we call them flags. They're about 80 centimetres by 60. They're bright yellow with a giant Artweeks logo on, and they've got a loop that the top of the flag is folded so that you can, in theory, put a broom or something through it and then either hang it outside a house from a window or hang it out over your gate. So those are the things that people most often expect to see at a venue, is this big yellow venue flag, but we do also do bunting. Elaine?
Yeah, if I had stuff last year, is it the same stuff for this year?
Yes, it is. Now we charge for them. They're at cost price. We're not trying to make money from you. We're a not-for-profit organisation. But they should be able to be used then for several years. And we do, even now, I see the previous logo hanging outside some venues, and that's not been, I don't know when that logo was sidelined, maybe 18 years ago, 20 something years ago. So anyway, so they do last a long time. So the flag is the kind of mainstay that people expect to see, and then there's bunting. But you don't have to buy a flag or bunting. You can make your own. I've seen some lovely homemade versions painted on A-frames, embroidered applique things hanging out of windows. But we do, obviously, you want to make it obvious that something is happening at the address when the exhibition is taking place. So anything you've ordered, you'll be able to collect from a local distribution point in April, and we will, either we or a local organiser will give you details on that sort of end of March, early April. If for any reason you don't hear anything, then just ask. So depending on where you live, you may well hear or have even heard already from a local area coordinator. And what local area coordinators do, it varies by local area, but they tend to get all the artists exhibiting in an area together for a coffee or a glass of wine, and then as a group you decide if you want to do any additional joint publicity. These coordinators, they're all volunteers. They're wonderful people who've stepped forwards to help, kind of you in your different patches. So if you can, please respond to them and join in. And actually, I think it's the local bunch of artists, the networking between those local bunches, it's probably one of the things that's the strongest about Art Weeks, because if you get involved in the local bunch, it's such a support. It really is. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from Art Weeks for lots of people. So do join in if you can. And those local bunches often decide to club together to design and print local area trail maps. And you've probably seen these if you've been going around Art Weeks or visited venues. Certain areas have really kind of useful navigational tools. Some areas, they're really quite fancy and they ask people to put a little bit of money in each. Others, they are hand-drawn or printed in black and white. They're a hand-drawn map of a village. And so they do vary. They're most useful these days for walking trails through villages because with Google Maps and sat-navs, if you're just going to one venue, you probably Google map yourself direct to the door. But those trail maps are a popular thing that often it's the local groups that do those. Now, if you don't hear from a coordinator and you feel you've got the energy to instigate a cafe or pub get together or a Zoom chat even with a dozen neighbouring venues, and then do let us know and we'll try, we'll provide the details of who's near you and maybe we've got a kind of handout of what might be useful to suggest and things. So do bear that in mind. I think the areas at the moment, we don't have anyone in Jericho this year, which is a surprise. Whitney, or is there somewhere else, Joe? I can't remember.
South Oxford, in the city, and Farringdon. We've got distribution points, we just haven't got coordinators.
Okay, so those are patches where it would be nice if we do. So it's really helpful to know the artists exhibiting nearby for support and for helping each other to promote one another. So before your exhibition opens, we recommend you contact or visit the artists or studios who are nearest to you, and you'll be able to see those on the map when the website goes live in the next week or two, as well as in the guide. But in the guide, obviously it's a sort of single line trail all through the county, whereas the map, you can see it more quickly and easily. And if you chat to them, you see what they're exhibiting and they know what you're exhibiting, you're going to feel much more comfortable sending people on to other venues. So you can swap flyers beforehand, work out exactly where they are geographically. So you could be able to say to someone, okay, so drive to the village square, turn left at the church and follow that road. It's only about 500 metres. So know where they are geographically. If neighbouring venues all encourage visitors to travel on to one another, recommend the seascapes to someone who liked your blue work, or the pots to someone who liked, your co-exhibitors' pots or whatever, fabric designs if someone's interested in pattern, surface pattern, knowing where to send people on and having people in return send people back to you, it could double your numbers of visitors. And across the county, if everybody's doing that, it's a lot of extra visitors, it could be a lot of extra sales, and it's a really nice thing for our visitors because they are being given kind of, if they feel like they're given secret insider information about where's good and where else to go, and it makes their life easier if they know that, don't turn left at the church, keep straight on, and that's where you'll find that venue. So it is worth putting that little bit of time into finding out the other venues near you. So the other thing to do when you're sending out your save the date emails is invite everyone you know via social media platforms you use. So please promote both your own exhibition, of course, yes, you want people to come to you first, and then Art Weeks as a whole. And if everybody does that, it helps all of you. Our social media is a huge part of the noise that all of us, make en masse about the festival. Between us, with 1,000 members, that's a phenomenal reach, and it's a really great tool for raising awareness that Art Weeks is happening. So in the run up to the festival, please post about both your own Art Weeks activity and the festival, and interact with Art Weeks social media too, whether that's Facebook or Instagram. Now, Facebook and Instagram, it's just me, and I'm not really any more of a social media expert than you guys are. And with 1,000 artists, so I think there's 600 who I'm following on Instagram, that's an awful lot of content. So have mercy on me. And I cannot read all of it every day. I just can't. So it's important, I think, to understand a little bit of how Artweeks, how we're trying to manage the social media, given that there's so much that we could do, but clearly can't. So we're trying to share things without overwhelming our followers. We're trying to share so that we are doing a geographical spread, so that we are doing a spread of media, so that I'm trying to make sure I include as many of the artists who are posting as I can. And actually, because the way Instagram has changed quite a lot over the year, we're having to have a bit of a reassess about what we do as well. So that's still in process. So because I get literally dozens of messages and notifications every day, please don't message me on social media. Please email me. Even if you see something on social media that you're thinking, oh, she should see this, or I need to tell her this, or please do go into email. And because it's just too easy for it to get lost amongst just the melee of other things coming into the social media boxes. So the best way to use social media ahead of Artweeks is to start now and to post quite consistently until your show is over. Please post the images that we provided with the first newsletter, the ones that say I'm taking part in Artweeks and which week you are. Please post those as a sort of starter. You'll also find them on the website in the artist section. And then there's also the cover that you can post, and that's again in that same section on the website, on the e-flyer, all of those things, or whichever you want to, or make your own e-flyer, that's fine too. Remember to make your posts public. If you have a private account because you're sharing pictures of your children or your grandchildren, and you don't share it more broadly than your friends, for anything you want to be seen more broadly or your art, share it publicly. And don't be shy. If you're on Facebook, do write in the text, please share, because some of your friends quite possibly will, and then they're reaching their friends too. And that way we can reach, literally hundreds of thousands of people. As you post any arty related stories or reels or posts, particularly reels are good now, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram, tag them with Oxfordshire Artweeks. So this is different from what I've said in the past. For anybody who's coming back, please tag them. On Facebook, it's at Oxfordshire Artweeks, including the space. On Instagram, it's at Oxfordshire Artweeks, no space. And it's Oxfordshire, because we're not just the city, art, singular, weeks, plural. You'd be surprised how many people get that wrong, but if you tag the wrong thing, I won't see it. So if you tag in that way, those posts will automatically appear linked to Oxfordshire Artweeks accounts on Facebook and on Instagram, in either the mentions part of Facebook or the tagged section on Instagram. And I have got a new Insta graphic that I'm putting up this year that says, hop over to our tagged post to get a flavour of the festival, because I obviously can't share 600 artists' posts. But what we can do is say, hop over to our tagged posts and see what's happening kind of in real time. We used to do this with hashtags, but they've changed how hashtags worked, which was a shame because it was a really good way of doing it. But the tagged thing works. So tag us on anything that's kind of arty to do with your Artweeks exhibition or your art practice. And then if I've liked it, that shows I've seen it. If I'm not liking your posts, then something's going wrong because I'm not seeing them. And that means you're probably not tagging them. But I don't see everything. If you're not tagging things, even though I'm following you, I can't see everything that 600 people post. So that's just a kind of speed overview. You can also include the Oxfordshire Artweeks hashtag on Instagram. And if your social media account is a trading name, so you are Twisted Roots or Bella Jewellery or whatever, please include your real name, your artist name, your Artweeks name in your text. And I would also include your venue number, your listing number, and your listing number and your location, because, well, why wouldn't you? But that just enables people to find you easily in the Artweeks guide or on the Artweeks website. And do share each other's posts too, follow, comment, all of those things, because the social media algorithms respond to the number of comments and likes. So the more popular posts reach more people. So it's about everybody helping everyone and just slowly building up people's social media followings too. So on Facebook, we do have two separate bits. We have the Oxfordshire Artweeks page. It's the general public page. It's what we're putting out information to possible visitors, potential visitors. We've also got a group for members, which I think I put that that was in the Facebook, that was in the January newsletter. It's called Oxfordshire Artweeks Artists, and that is a private group, an informal chat for members. It doesn't reach the general public. There is no point posting your kind of art posts there. And in fact, we'd rather you didn't, because if everybody did that, we'd lose the chat element of it. So that's social media. But now we're back in the real world. So think about how you're going to promote your exhibition in the final day or two before you open. So you need to make it obvious that there's something going on at the venue or the house. So you can still order the flags, the bunting, and yellow kind of direction boards, pointy boards that are pretending to be AA boards. They're bright yellow. They're made out of kind of plasticized stuff, and they've got an arrow at either end. The idea is that you cut the one off that you don't want so that it's pointing the direction you need to go. The deadline for that is probably Monday. We will be ordering them, I think, on Monday. So really tomorrow is to order those if you want them. You don't have to. You can just put up giant balloons. You can have performance dancers on stilts in the front garden in blue and yellow if you like, but just something that's kind of weatherproof. That's what we're providing, something that's weatherproof and easily recognizable. Do signpost vigorously locally wherever you're allowed to do so. So put directional posters on all the routes near to you into your venue. So there's two types of visitors, I suppose. Well, there's lots of types, but one type, they put your postcode into their sat nav. They're coming to see you. Done. You just need to signpost your venue, really, though it's really nice if you're down a long country lane where you see a sign and it says Artweeks venue 250, only 500 meters to go, and you think, yeah, I'm on the right track. This lane felt very little. So it's nice to sort of signpost people in, but that's a nicety for those people. They've got your sat nav. They're going to find you. Your postcode in their sat nav. The other ones are the people who are driving past a main road near you. So if you are only 500 meters off the A415, why not put a sign pointing to your venue from the A415 for all the people who are driving along it who know of Artweeks but don't know that your venue is only just off this road right now. They're driving to work, they think, oh, there's an Artweeks venue on the way to work. I'll look it up and I'll pop to it on the way back. So think about the people, not just the people who've planned to come to see you, but the people who are driving in that slightly wider area. If you're exhibiting within a leisure centre or an art centre or somewhere that's got lots of spaces within it, make sure that you are signposting as best you can for people who arrive at that front entrance of the art centre, the school or wherever, into the room, the space where the exhibition is held. So again, it's a little bit like thinking about the welcome at an exhibition. How are you welcoming people in with your signage? How are you showing them, making it easy for them so they've got a nice warm fuzzy feeling when they arrive, rather than pulling their hair out because they've been driving around the block and not finding it for the last 10 minutes. And one thing to just take a little bit of care with is if you've got one of those addresses where you have to say to every visitor, if you're coming, once you get to the church, ignore the sat nav. I'm down the road to the left. It will tell you to go right. Then that's a place to put up a sign, because that's where your visitors are going to go wrong. So just maybe check what the sat nav tells you about going to your own house, and check that it's telling you the right place. Google Maps does it by postcode. If you're in a rural patch with a fairly big postcode area, then Google will take a visitor to the middle. So think about making sure that anybody at that middle spot or approaching the middle knows where to go. In terms of signage, directional signage like that, legally, you're not really supposed to put signs up on public highways. And in Oxford itself, there's a real chance that they'll be removed. Parish councils, they do vary. Most of them are happy for posters to go up, as long as they're taken down they go up a few days before and they're then taken down. Some parish councils, like Watlington, are brilliant, and they kind of do it all for you anyway. And Charlbury's great. There are some patches are brilliant, but you can also be inventive. So we see cars parked close to junctions with signage in the windows because they're allowed to be parked near where they're allowed to be parked there, they're legally parked, and then they've got the signage inside them. We've seen lampposts on lampposts with bikes chained to them, and the bike has the sign attached to it. Because you're allowed to put your bike on a lamppost, you might not be allowed to put the sign on the lamppost itself. We've seen big chalk arrows on pavements in the city, so you can be inventive with how to do it too. So that's sort of signing people in and promoting it to passers-by and people that are driving on the roads nearest to you. And then I think back online in May, as the exhibition opens as well, please share that Art Weeks Festival flipbook or the PDF with as many people as you can online. And then during the festival, back onto social media here, what we do suggest is that everybody posts a picture of the day every day. A picture of your own work and a reminder as well then that Art Weeks is happening. Now, what we've learned over the last couple of years was that while some people, they'd normally be very shy about posting every day, shy about posting so much, shy about putting up pieces of work as if you're saying, kind of in a brazen or self-seeking way, here's my work, anybody want to buy it? That's not what we are asking you to do. What we're asking you to do, and this is why people are comfortable doing it most of the time, is we're saying, post something every day as a contribution to the festival, kind of online. So if you're posting every day and saying today's contribution to my contribution today to the festival is this picture, then you're not being pushy for people to buy. You're putting out pieces for 3 weeks for people to enjoy. And in some ways it's no different, but in other ways it's completely different. And people feel happy doing that generally. So it could be pieces of new work that's available for sale, but it could also be something from the archives or a favourite or a commission or a picture of some of you at work or something that inspired you. So it's not about trying to sell things to the people that you're showing your work to. It's about sharing your work as part of the festival. And so I think that's quite a cool thing if everybody does that as well. And so you're promoting yourself online and again, sharing each other's. Whew. I've talked enough. Are there any questions? Louise?
Yes. For putting the directional signs on the main roads for commuters as they're going past to remind them about it, how long before would you say that the first ones should go up?
Maybe a week, 3 or 4 days. I mean, it depends on how many you're putting up on.
Yeah, don't do it too soon because it's almost we're open now.
Yeah,
also
because I did the big yellow posters, a couple of those with the dates that we're doing it, and so if because I wanted to make sure people knew which. And for us this year, we can't open on the first Saturday because there's a wedding in the church. So we're starting on the Sunday. So I really want to make sure that people know that.
If you're doing it with the dates clearly on it, then I'd do it certainly a week before.
A week before.
But if it's just a sign to say this way,
then it
really almost needs to be the night before.
Yeah, that's what we're intending to do. So a week before I can put the dates on. Yeah,
because actually there are different types of signage as well. Because some people will put something up. So the posters that go up at the station, where people then order 2 extra copies and have those themselves, they are weatherproof, and they are a poster that says Art Weeks throughout May and a picture of work, and they are so they're advertising rather than directional. So they could go up earlier, but they are less crucial to be on roads and things.
Yes, yeah.
What I didn't say, and I probably should have said, is as well as the posters, the ones that look like the top of the ones that have the header, and then there's the ones that look like the front of the guide. We also produce A5, A4, and A3. They are posters that look like our flags. They are bright yellow and they've just got a big logo on, and they are just paper. And
Yeah.
you can put a great big arrow, you could put them in a window to say, this is, this is the venue, yes, come on in. So they're not as big as the flags. They can't be outside, or they have to be laminated to be outside. But people use those a lot too, to put a great big black marker pen arrow on. And so you don't have to buy things, but we're trying to provide a variety of things to make it easy for
Where
people.
do
And
I
on
get-
those, you can put your venue number on those.
Where do we get those posters from?
They'll come to the distribution points in April.
Because I got, I think, one last year, but can we get more than one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we print are about 4 a venue.
Yeah,
It's
we
on
do.
average.
Yeah, it's between about 4 and 5 per venue. But if they've run out for any reason, I keep some spares here, so I can send you them from here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, once they run out, they'd run out.
Yes,
But yeah,
yes.
we keep a few back. But there will be other venues who don't take any, or they've got a different plan, or they're on the high street and they just need a flag out the front and that's it. So, so usually that we I don't think we usually run out. Though they might. So there should be plenty available.
Okay, marvelous. Thank you.